My name's Ripley. I'm a fine art photographer and artist, and I'm based in England. This project was a long project, took several years to complete, and it's a series of 12 large-scale portraits of the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment. I originally had a concept in about 2012, whilst actually doing background plates in New York, where I was photographing on tops of high buildings overlooking cityscapes, and I just had an idea that I would put horses on tops of rooftops overlooking urban landscapes. And it took a few years because it was an unusual idea for me to try and whittle that down to being the Household Cavalry on top of London rooftops, affording panoramic views of the city. And then that became a whole other project in itself of how do you actually form that into the real world. I have no military background or connections with the Household Cavalry, let alone trying to get permissions to go on top of London rooftops and in a very secure capital. I wasn't sure whether it was ever going to happen. So in my head, I'm just thinking, ruminating through all the ideas and how I might end up constructing these pictures. And it was one of those stories where the universe all comes together. And I met this lady at a gallery preview showing on Park Lane in London. She was asking me what my latest project might be. And I just said I had this mad idea to put the cavalry on top of rooftops overlooking London. And she just said, well, I just happen to know the commanding officer of the Household Cavalry. So my first meeting with the Household Cavalry involved me presenting the concept. And for that, I showed them two pictures. One was a picture I'd done of a racehorse overlooking an English landscape. And I said, imagine there's an officer on his horse overlooking an urban cityscape and not a landscape. So something they could visualize. So I'm presenting this idea, thinking they're going to think I'm bonkers and insane. And they just said they got it straight away. It's all very well for me to say, yes, let's arrange a shoot, but a shoot's a big deal and involved maybe 20 officers. I think I originally photographed. All the horses, they all have to be immaculately turned out with the ceremonial outfits. All the horses have to be groomed and tacked up beautifully. So it was a big production. When composing the backplates, so when you think about it, a year and a half or 2 years to get all the permissions and then actually get to do the officers and the cavalry, of the horses. And it took another 2 years to do all the background plates around London. Lots of different reasons for that. One is just permissions to get on top of lots of sensitive buildings or overlook sensitive buildings. London's a very secure capital, and I'm accessing non-public areas, and in certain areas of London you might get a sniper have a target on you if you're in the wrong place. So you have to go through lots of security and protocol to get on top of these buildings, and then it's you get up there and realise there actually isn't really a place to stand a horse. In your imagination, all these roofs are pristine and they're beautiful, and you have this lovely, almost private set built for you. But in reality, it's a chaos of safety barriers, air conditioning units, and window cleaning apparatus, and cranes, and God knows what. So it's never what you perceive it to be, or you might think. If you imagine you're looking at the view in front of you, I will move the camera to take a slice off the left-hand part of that image. And then I will focus on the foreground, mid to fore, mid-ground, mid to far, and then far ground. And then I'll move the camera and do the same thing on the way back. And then I'll move it again and do the same thing going that way. So I'll end up with maybe a panorama 5 pictures across, but with all different shifts of focus. In post-production, I'll blend all those elements together so there's no depth of field or anything out of focus in the picture. The idea to have nothing out of focus became more painterly, and people perceived it as more painterly than an optical artifact through a lens. It's just trying to sort of fool the eye where people aren't quite sure whether they're looking at a painting or a picture or photograph sometimes. When you go close to the image, everything is just pin sharp, and I think that's what really separates the look of them. When you see them large and go close to them, it's that unbelievable clarity. I wanted to sort of have everyone really invested in the project. Maybe we could expand it from just doing a 1-month gallery show. Maybe we could then, start exhibiting the works in some historical buildings, as well as galleries and museums, and really try and embrace the cavalry's heritage as this is now being the official coronation present to the king. When we started talking about those ideas, that everyone came on board with that, and that has involved so far, bespoke exhibition spaces at Royal Ascot in the Royal Enclosure, Buckingham Palace, Flores Castle, Grimsthorpe Castle, where we are today in this beautiful space in the Vanbrugh Hall, as well as London galleries and other venues going on into 2025. Another important part to me was a charitable element. I spoke to the director of the Household Cavalry Foundation, Charles Stibby, and I just said I'd like to offer a really high percentage of the sales to go to the foundation charity, and that's how they've got behind the works as well. And so that's just an ongoing and another dimension to the pictures.